What's up, everybody? It's Rick, and welcome back to Only Football. We're going to be doing our week 4 recaps. We're going to be talking about our running back of the week, and we're getting into our top 5, top 5, top 5. Let's get it.
Let's go! Welcome to another episode of Only Football.
Let's go.
I'm Justin Fields.
And I'm Drew Locke.
I had to just because of what happened.
I literally hate you. I
wear it with pride. Welcome to Only Football. Like Rick said, we're going to be breaking down all the games today. What we learned, what we didn't learn. I got to say, he mentioned top 5. I'll just give you a little hint about mine. I found it very hard to come up with 5 good teams.
Yep.
But ultimately, I could come up with about 4. And I'm going to say that 5th one's probably going to move around a little bit. But we'll talk more about that later. Let's get right into the games. And we can start with Thursday Night Football. And Thursday night was the Detroit-Green Bay game. Me and Rick live streamed it.
Yep.
And Rick, did you learn more about the Packers in the second half or Detroit in the first half?
Look, part of me wants to say the Packers just because I'm a Bears fan and I want to shit on them so badly. But I think I have to say the Lions. We learned a little bit more about the Lions and their offense, right? Their offense is good. Their offense is really, really good. And they were one of the top offenses last year at the beginning of the season, too. So let's not forget that, right? They were a high-scoring offense. They were, I think, top 3 or top 2 offenses at the beginning of the year. They put on a clinic in the first half here against the Packers. They scored 14 in the first, 13 in the second, nothing in the third, and then 7 in the fourth to really close out the game. David Montgomery, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all guys that put up pretty big numbers in this game. Jared Goff, 210 yards on 28 attempts. David Montgomery, 32 carries, 121 yards, 3 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 56 yards on 5 receptions with a touchdown. Like, this offense is explosive. Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson seem to be like on the same page. Like this offense is just humming. They did very, very good on Thursday Night Football, and I really enjoyed watching the Packers lose.
Of course you did. Well, remember, we talked about Week 17, or technically Week 18 last year, Detroit coming into Green Bay, and nobody gave them a shot, and they win. This year, no Aaron Rodgers. Everybody just kind of assumes Detroit's going to win, but then we're like, not so fast. This Jordan Love guy pulled it together in the second half in the Saints game. But then we saw the Saints get absolutely manhandled. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I guess Detroit is just a much better football team at this point. They look like the more talented team. They're younger. Jared Goff looks to me like he could win a Super Bowl. Ben Johnson looks great. I mean, this Detroit team is – think about it. They get a bunch of young talent. They get rid of some guys like Swift and Hockenson, and they bring in Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs, and they get younger. So even though they're going, into their third year in the same system with Dan Campbell, because they bring in so much new, young players, it still takes, half the season for everybody to kind of get on the same page. So when I look at Detroit, it's like, they're better than they've ever been this early in the season because they have that continuity going back 2 years now.
Yep.
But imagine when the new players, start rising and Jahmyr Gibbs starts going off, because Montgomery went off in this game. It wasn't even Gibbs. And then Sam Laporta looks like one of the best tight ends in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So to me, I think part of our job is not just to say where teams are at following the game, but where's the trajectory of this team. And when I look at the Lions, I think they get better as the year goes on, and that could mean that they're one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL, not even just the North or the NFC, but in general, one of the top teams in the league. So, yeah, I mean, it said a lot to me about the Lions. And for the Packers, Matt LaFleur was pissed after this game. He was like,
Yep.
We got manhandled. I think his exact words were, it was something like bullied and thrown. But whatever those adjectives are, they're exactly what you would expect from a Dan Campbell type of defense. Just out-physicaled. And Matt LaFleur, you want to see your head coach pissed off about that. And he said, if I knew why it happened, it wouldn't have happened. So to me, that's a coach saying, I don't know how to fix it. Our players aren't as good. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see how Green Bay kind of moves forward from this. They're not bad enough to tank. But can they become good enough to compete with the NFL's best remains to be seen. But if you're a Lions fan, you got to feel good.
Absolutely, you do. And, on the other side, if you're a Packers fan, after that halftime where you just got completely blown out, they only came up with 3 points in that first half. Matt LaFleur, at that halftime report with whoever was the sideline reporter, he came in angry at his team, and he was saying, we have to play with heart. We gave zero effort out there. We're going to come back better, And me and you were saying, like, oh shit, this is LaFleur saying this as a coach, and he said that to his team at the halftime. When they came out, what did they do? They scored a touchdown. They went for 2. They got it. Then what happened? They got in the fourth quarter, they got a safety. I believe they got a safety, right? They'd gotten this. No, did they get the safety?
I don't believe that.
No, this is another
They were
game.
down on the 1 yard line.
Yeah, I'm talking about a completely different game. Sorry. But you thought, okay, they came out, they scored a touchdown, they went for 2. Okay, let's see what happens here. Maybe they're about to come, with a comeback here, because the week prior against the Saints, they were able to do that. Fortunately, they were only able to put up 9 points in the fourth quarter. Only came out with 20 points total. Still not bad in a losing effort, especially in the first half where you got absolutely manhandled. But if you're a Lions fan, you really like this win, especially after what they did to the Saints the week prior.
Definitely. Absolutely. Our next game on the list was the Tennessee Titans playing the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have had a slow start, but like Rick has said, and I have said, it's not unusual for the Bengals to have a slow start, but it is unusual for the Bengals. The Bengals are the only team to have less points than the Giants.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was like I think in first quarters they have 6. The Bengals only have 3. 3 points in all of the NFL season's first half. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's not a sleepy team. That is like a dead team. I don't know what's going on. They got to figure it out. I said it's got to be Joe Burrow. It's got to be his injury. I'm going to die on that mountain. I really will, because there's absolutely no way that anybody could convince me that Joe Burrow is whatever this is. You know what I mean? We've already seen enough to know that there's something else going on, and I don't think it's Zach Taylor, because he looks like a really great coach. He took them to a Super Bowl after a slow start. But I will say, if there was any team that you would, have faith in having this kind of start, because they have the same record as Denver. But if you were to bet on one team making the playoffs, it's definitely the Bengals.
Yeah.
So we kind of do believe that they'll turn around. So we haven't really panicked. But I'm here to say it's time to panic when it comes to Cincinnati Bengals. Like, this is not we're kind of past the due date. We're passing the 25% mark. Yep. We have to start figuring out what's going on. And for Tennessee, Derrick Henry had a big game. They exploded late in the game. It was really slow. I think I read that they went on a 40. Yeah, here it is. They took 15 plays to go 40 yards.
Jesus. Jesus.
And responding to a Cincinnati field goal with a 53-yard kick of its own to tie the game, the teams only completed 2 combined drives in the opening frame, and the contest appeared to be settling into a defensive battle until the Titans kind of opened the game up, and Derrick Henry even threw for a touchdown. Tennessee at home, Mike Vrabel, really tough to play at home. They were underdogs, and they manhandled the Bengals 27-3, man. That's a 24-point win. That's a blowout. If this game was 24-0, we would have a much different reaction. But this game is a 24-point win, no matter what it looks like. And for the Bengals, back to the Joe Burrow stuff, man. It's got to be Joe Burrow.
And you said it, man. Derrick Henry had a huge game for the Titans. 122 yards on 22 carries and a touchdown. I said it, I had the Bengals winning this. They came off a win in week 3. I thought Joe Burrow kind of not figured it out, but I'm like, okay, maybe this is when the wheels start turning for the Bengals. But I said, unless Derrick Henry has a huge game, I think the Bengals have this. That's exactly what they needed from Derrick Henry, and that's exactly what he did. And Ryan Tannehill, credit to him, 18 completions for 240 yards, a touchdown. He did have that interception, but when you're winning by 24, that interception is almost just like a non-factor. And, let's talk the Bengals. Joe Mixon, not really getting going, 67 yards on 14 carries. Good enough for almost 5 yards per carry, but no touchdowns, never really got it going. And you mentioned it at the very beginning, Joe Burrow, 20 completions for 165 yards, 0 touchdowns. Obviously, they only got 3 points. Ja'Marr Chase had a very interesting comment during the post game. They asked him, "Were you open?" He said, "I'm always fucking open." Excuse my language.
Bam.
And I don't think this is anything. I don't know. I don't think it's anything to worry about because it's probably just frustration. But we've seen this with Justin Jefferson. We've seen this with AJ Brown, where they're like, "Bro, I'm one of the top 3, top 4, top 5 wide receivers in the league. Throw me the ball, and I will get that." Ja'Marr Chase is a guy who will do that. He had 7 receptions for 73 yards, but in a very, very ugly loss. So
those are rookie numbers. You got to pump those numbers up.
You got to at least get 1 touchdown. DK Metcalf had a touchdown, and he had 3 receptions probably.
And I do want to kind of interject here, though, and say that I think Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase are close enough where it's not an attack on the quarterback.
Yep.
It's just, hey, I am still who I am. Don't get it twisted. Like, I'm open.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I was going to say, and that's why I said I feel like it just comes out of frustration where he is open and just nothing happens.
Right. Absolutely. Because he knows that if he gets the ball in his hands, he can change the game. Right. So you would have to be pretty emotionally disconnected from the game to not be mad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a big loss.
And this is one of those games, with nothing going on the offense, Joe Burrow has to get the ball, at least targets-wise, to Ja'Marr Chase 12 to 15 times. Because like you said, if he gets the ball in his hand, he will make something happen. But the Bengals lose. They move to 1-3. You said it's panic time. I don't want to agree, but this is probably one, like you said, this is probably one of the better teams to really be like, hey, I think they can still make the playoffs at the end of the day when it's all said and done.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Another game that we thought was going to be a hard-fought win was the Washington Commanders taking on the Eagles. This was my upset of the week, and it was my upset of the week for, I think, good reason, because the Commanders did beat Philly last year, and they are a better team this year. And I got to say, this was a very hard-fought win for Philly, and I don't want to talk about this game like Philly played with the Commanders, right? Like, oh my God, did you see the Commanders took Philly to overtime? It's not like that. It's not like that. This is a very tough, like when things like what the Commanders were able to do, when it all goes right and the game plan goes right and you're scoring and they got the defense they got, this is a very tough game. And Philly was able to win it. They were able to win it in the trenches. They had to win a dirty, game that took a lot of grit. And I think this might have been the best game of the week.
I would 100% agree with that, because this game starting off, and we went, we live streamed the entire Sunday slate for the most part. This was a game where when Washington was up at halftime, 17-10, we were like, uh-oh. Even I had pointed that out to you. I was like, Kyle, your upset of the week is looking good. But this I think a lot of credit to Sam Howell, a lot of credit to this Washington Commanders team. The Eagles showed why they are probably again one of the top favorites in the NFC conference, because they were able to come back from this and win it in overtime. The Washington defensive front four especially are very, very good. Jalen Hurts and this offense better. That's what it is. That's really what it came down to. They scored 10 points in the first half, came back with 21 points in the third and fourth quarter, and then were able to get that field goal kick in overtime to win the game. Jalen Hurts, 25 of 37, 319 yards, 2 touchdowns. This is what I'm saying, man. Jalen Hurts, I will push his tush all day. He is that fucking good. He is that good. And when you have DeAndre Swift as just an added little bonus, just a little bloop, you know what I mean? Like 56 yards and a touchdown rushing. Like this is amazing. And then A.J. Brown, 2 touchdowns with over 170 yards.
Yeah.
Insane.
And when you think about how good Washington's front four is, keep in mind that Jalen Hurts didn't even have a single tush push from the 1 yard line.
Yep.
This is a play that we see every single week.
Yep.
And it didn't even get to be attempted in an entire game, a game that was a high scoring game. So, I mean, to me, that just says so much about this Commanders front four. I mean, they may be the best in the league. I mean, they're up there with Dallas and Philly, the Niners, like whoever you want to put it. That's where the Commanders are at. And if they can really kind of lean on this identity as a dirty, nasty football team, I do think Sam Howell can open up the passing game. And this could be kind of like this could be the Detroit Lions of, last year.
Yeah.
But late season form. Like when the Lions started winning and people were like, oh my God, the Lions, where'd they come from? This could be this year's version. The owner's out. There's a new identity. Things are looking really good for Washington. And look, we're talking about this and they lost. So I think you got to feel good about the Commanders, man. They've had a lot of tough football games. They've had to play Philly. They've had to go into Denver. Mm-hmm. They were able to get a win there. Almost got a win in Philly. So they continue to be a really tough underdog road team. And I'm excited to see what they can become. Or do you got any finishing thoughts there?
I was going to say this is a great game for the Commanders. It just sucks because they lost against the Eagles, and they were coming off a loss against the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm sorry, not the Bengals, the Bills, which was a really bad loss. It sucks, but yes, you can point to it and be like, are these the Lions of last year? It just sucks. They're 2-2. They put in a lot of effort against some really good teams, but they get blown out week 3. It's just like, okay, is this like a sub 500 team? Is this like a 10-win team? What is this? You know what I mean?
Right, absolutely. And that I'm excited for next week for our predictions. So we'll be doing that. So our next game I'm really pumped about because I've always been kind of into the Baker Mayfield thing. Like when he played for the Rams, and remember we streamed that game and he had a comeback win and he didn't even have cleats in his size. Yeah. Is that what it was? Or was his helmet? He didn't even have a helmet.
Yes.
And it was just, they kind of just threw him out there, and it was like, you're always kind of cheering for the guy to just go out there, and it's like, hey, he doesn't even know the playbook. Just go out there and play. Like the fact that he could even like take play calls and win the game. Mm-hmm. Now he gets his opportunity. Tom Brady retires. The expectations couldn't be any lower and higher, weirdly, at the same time.
Yeah.
Because he replaced Tom Brady. Yeah. And things are just looking really good defensively. Tampa's looking really good. Baker Mayfield, he had that game against Philly where we all kind of thought, because they were both 3-0 going into Sunday Night Football. Mm-hmm. And we were, because that was the doubleheader. No, that was Monday Night Football, actually. It was the doubleheader last week.
2-0, yeah.
And Tampa kind of hung around Philly, but eventually Philly just kind of pulled away. And then we kind of forgot about, Tampa being 3-0. I know I did. But now they're 3-1. They were 2-0 when they
2-0,
play.
yeah.
So now they're 3-1. They're winning their division, I believe, because Atlanta lost to the Jaguars. And who am I missing?
The Saints lost to Tampa and Atlanta.
Saints, Tampa,
The
Atlanta.
Panthers are 0-4.
And the Panthers are 0-4. So there you go. So yeah, I mean, now it's Tampa Bay's division to lose. Baker Mayfield, I would imagine that he gets more comfortable. Mike Evans did lead this game early, but for the Saints, there was a couple plays. There was Chris Olave was not a factor in this game at all. I think they had an opportunity to throw him a touchdown pass. I believe he dropped it. Because I have him on my fantasy team, so I was like, "Oh yeah," because I didn't know. Because in Red Zone they show you a play. I thought they were showing him, and then he hit the ground and came out, and I'm like, "No,
fuck."
But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. Being completely honest, I picked the Saints to win this game. I'm surprised that the Saints are not better. You know what I mean, with Derek Carr and maybe Josh McDaniels saw something because. I don't know. It's one game, but this is kind of the head scratcher of the week for me.
Yes, because of that game, like you said, against the Eagles, right, last week?
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield against the Bears looked great. And, they were 1-0 going in that game. They were 2-0 coming out of that game. Baker Mayfield looked good. We thought, all right, Monday Night Football, it looks good against this Eagles team, right? Even though the Eagles are probably going to win, and they showed that they won. They beat them by over double their score. We thought, okay, this is the Baker Mayfield we all know and love. This is probably not going to be anything special. He came out and he dealt, dude. 246 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yes, an interception, but I mean, let's look at who he got it to, right? Rashad White had a good game. Chris Godwin, 114 yards. Mike Evans did leave, but he was already with 3 receptions and 40 yards. Baker Mayfield was making moves, man. 26 points to New Orleans 9. Derek Carr was injured last week against the Packers, was somewhat questionable this entire week going into this game. Dude, he had a rough game. He completed 23 passes for 127 yards.
Not good.
That is rough, and he looked injured throughout the entire game. He looked rough throughout the entire game. And it was like, what are we doing with Derek Carr? Do we want to win the division? We'll take this division loss against the Bucs, but let's also try to maintain our guy that we got in the offseason that we think will get the Saints to an NFC South division title, right? They threw him out there a little too early, in my opinion, and just kind of looking at other stats, Alvin Kamara got 13 receptions for 33 yards. What is that? That's less. I think that's about a yard.
Yeah.
Or like a yard, 1.05 yards per reception. Just for comparison, Rashid Shaheed, 3 receptions for 33 yards. This offense looked ineffective against this Tampa Bay Bucs defense, and credit to the Bucs defense because they were able to intercept Jameis for the one throw that he had and make this Saints team look silly.
Oh yeah. Jameis and this Saints offense looked like dog
shit. Yeah, there we go.
It's funny how bad it is at this stage.
It's so bad, but we will.
I think it was my fault again because I'm like, this offense is like, no, that's not how you do it, dude.
It's good. We'll get it.
All right. Yeah, dude. I forgot about that until you brought it up. That did Derek Carr. When did he exit that game?
I don't know when he exited the game exactly. I know he exited at one point because even Taysom Hill got like an opportunity at quarterback there, but that may have just been the obvious Taysom Hill play at quarterback that he always gets every game. So I'm not sure exactly when he exited the game. I just know at one point, like, I feel like all Saints fans were clamoring for him to get out of there because he was, for the most part, costing them the game.
Yeah, that was a rough one. This next one's going to be a rough one for one of our fans of the channel. This one's for Jinja.
Oh, no.
We got to do our week 4 recap. Anthony Richardson was in concussion protocol leading up to the game. We didn't really know. We said, we'll take the Colts if Richardson plays, and if Minshew plays, we'll take the Rams.
Yeah.
I do think Anthony Richardson, he looked good in this game to me. Like, he's looking the part. I think this is going to be similar. CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson both look like two, long-term starters, in my opinion. Richardson still has stuff to learn, but instinctively he's got the Colts competing in football games, and that's what you love to see. But Matthew Stafford, the Rams, and their receiver from BYU, Luka Puka Nakua. Hakuna Matata. It means no worries.
Oh, Kyle, I love you, Kyle.
You guys know that we can't do names, and this isn't just me being like, oh, he's arrogant, can't pronounce a different ethnicity. Like, I literally can't pronounce any names, like, at all. So, but yeah, I mean, with Cooper Kupp out of the game, on IR, this hamstring thing, he had to go see a hamstring specialist. You wondered, okay, who's going to be the guy? He stepped up, man, for them, and he's like one of the top receivers right now in the NFL, period. And Matthew Stafford looks like he's playing really good ball. The running back, absolutely understand why they traded Cam Akers. I mean, he's hit the ground running, no pun intended. And what I'm mostly surprised about is the Rams defense looks solid. The Rams, they spent their draft picks on an offensive line, and they had to fix that because it was atrocious last year. They got rid of Bobby Wagner. They traded Jalen Ramsey. They were able to acquire things. And one thing I respect, because my friend Temple, he's a Rams fan, and I asked him, because he was talking about retiring after the Super Bowl. So then when he had that 6-win season, I asked him, I was like, do you think Sean McVay will retire? Because he was considering it. And he told me Sean McVay is not going to leave the organization bad. He's going to leave when they're good, like a Super Bowl. And I was like, okay. And he's like, no, he's gonna stay until he can fix it. And it looks like he's fixed it in a year. And this is why having a good head coach, you know how frustrating this is, man. We've been trying to watch our teams get fixed for 7 years. Yep. And you're just like, and longer for me, you got a little playoffs in 2018. But for me, I know what it's like to just be like, it's fixed, and then it's not, and then we think we fixed it, and it didn't, and it almost so much that I'm like skeptical, like about the Rams and their record right now. Like I'm like, I'm gonna hold off. Now this team just won a Super Bowl, you know what I mean? Yes. And then they had an off year, so it's like, are they back? Are they? It looks like they might be back, but they did lose Jalen Ramsey. They don't have Von Miller. Like, what is their ceiling? I guess we're going to have to wait and see. For right now, the Rams continue to win their football games.
The Rams, to me, and this is just like, they're a better coach team, and they have a better quarterback. But they're like the Carolina Panthers of last year, I think. They're going to start off hot, and they're going to surprise people. But they're going to fall off mid-season. I think they're going to fall off mid-season because, like you said, right? Like, the coaching is outstanding, and Matthew Stafford is a guy that you would want at quarterback. Like, over Darnold from last year with the Panthers, and over I forget which head coach they had last year. Who knows what head coach? I think it was
for the Colts.
No, for the Panthers.
They had Frank
Reich. The guy
Reich
from college, right?
Frank Reich, right?
No. Frank Reich is the coach now, but last year they had a guy from college. I forgot his name. Either way, I think they might be that team. Matt Rule. There we go.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be that team where they look good at the beginning of the season because somehow this team is putting it together, but because of the losses they've had, it's going to take a toll on them eventually. I mean, they're only 2-2. Right, they're only 2-2, but they are putting up a good team. Like week in, week out, you're like, oh man, I think this Rams team might win, or they're looking good, right? So I think they might be like the Carolina Panthers, where they really do get to that midseason slump, And, credit to Sean McVay, because I also doubt he leaves them kind of like, in a shit situation. I doubt that. But credit to him. Moving over to the Colts, and to give a little bit of hope for Jinja. Richardson, after being left scoreless in the first half, did really, really well.
Yeah.
He only had 11 completions, but 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of those, Andrew Ogletree. The other one, Mo Alley Cox. Mo Alley Cox, not a name that you've actually been excited about in probably 3 years. So he was able to bring them back, take this game into overtime, and yes, he lost it after a touchdown. But you've got to love the fight from a rookie quarterback like Richardson, someone who didn't really get any recognition in the draft until the very, very last minute, last couple weeks there before the draft, did he really get like recognition. Again, got to give it to him, man. He's doing something. And then back to the Rams real quick, back to Kyren Williams. You cut ties with Cam Akers, realize that he's not going to produce like you want him to. Kyren Williams comes in, has 100-yard games, has 2 touchdowns in this game alone. You found your answer, running back.
Yeah, I agree, and I do still think Cam Akers will ultimately pan out in Minnesota, but that's just the way it works. Sometimes guys just have to leave systems, It's like Stephon Diggs had all of these issues in Minnesota, and then he goes to Buffalo, and it's like perfect marriage, So until last season, until the end of last season,
yeah.
But our next game, I'm probably the most surprised.
Yes.
I gotta say, when you're wrong, you're wrong, and when you're right, you're right, and you got to be able to own it both. You need to be able to admit when you just totally miss, especially, to the people that are listening to you, because a lot of the advice that we give, I try to, I like to believe that 75% is right. CJ Stroud being good was not on the list.
Nope.
I did not believe in CJ Stroud. This is a lesson that I'll have to learn about watching preseason and not taking it too literally for a rookie quarterback. You just don't really think in your mind, oh, he's going to improve so much in 3 games of preseason. And when I watched him, I thought, oh, man, they should go with that other guy. But CJ Stroud is quickly changing the reputation of the Houston Texans. DeMeco Ryans has got the defense down. It looks like offensively they got it figured out with their quarterback in CJ Stroud. They got rid of Deshaun Watson and got, younger at the position. That, I'm blown away. I'm almost at a loss for words about this. Like Pittsburgh, man, you look at Mike Tomlin and you're just like, there's no way Mike Tomlin goes into Houston and loses. There's just no way. Like Houston, they might be a better team and they might beat, the Jets and the Giants and Broncos, or, some of the teams struggling because they're supposed to be a struggling team themselves. So even if Houston only beat struggling teams, that would be the next logical step up for a team that was fully in rebuild, and rebuilds don't happen in one season.
Yep.
DeMeco Ryans looks like kind of like a Deion Sanders of college football, where like everything he touches works. He was a great NFL player. He went into media. He was great at that. Went into coaching. He was great at that. That's why he's a head coach now. The guy's a winner. And that's actually who Denver wanted instead of Sean Payton. They offered DeMeco Ryans a contract, and he wanted to go back to Houston because that's where he played and that's where his family is. And, he was always going to take that job, but, it's responsible to interview with other people. But Houston definitely got their most value in DeMeco Ryans over any player, over Will Anderson, CJ Stroud. I got to give credit where credit's due. DeMeco Ryans has this whole team playing with a fighting spirit, almost like, hey, they didn't talk about us. We were never supposed to be here. We're playing with house money kind of an attitude. And they're going to beat you if you don't bring your best game. And to me, like, they've already moved up from a bad team to average. And I don't think it's an overreaction. This is 2 weeks in a row that Houston's shown that they can put up points and play good defense. To me, that's complete football. Am I missing anything?
Nope. And I love, love, love that we go 2 games in a row where the rookie quarterback just kind of shows out. Anthony Richardson with the Colts, and now CJ Stroud has a 306-yard game, 2 touchdowns. This is his second or third 300-yard game, if I'm not mistaken. And you're right, DeMeco Ryans, the perfect coach for a CJ Stroud. Like, I don't know if it's just him, but it's got to be the staff around him too, man. Like, he is making this team look really, really good. And against a Steelers team that, we thought, oh man, they actually might be in contention for a wild card maybe. Not necessarily the division, but I think a wild card. They made them look silly. After we talked about how good this defense for the Steelers was, they made them look absolutely silly. Dameon Pierce also looks good, 81 yards. Nico Collins, 7 receptions, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, CJ Stroud and Nico Collins right now are looking like a great pair. And, we look at the Steelers. The defense, again, was very good, and I think this was on J.J. Watt Day for Houston. So Houston really, really showed out for J.J. Watt.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, the Steelers, though, Kenny Pickett, 15 for 20, 314 yards and an interception, eventually was taken out. Shout out to Liam for letting us know it looked like an ankle injury, I believe, or something to that nature. But he was taken out. Mitch Trubisky came in. But the Steelers could not come back from this ass whooping. Najee Harris tried his hardest, 14 carries with 71 yards, but that was kind of it, man. George Pickens with 3 receptions for 25 yards. None of what the Steelers did on Sunday against this very, very surprisingly good Texans team was good enough. It's just not good what the Steelers are doing, and I just want to give a quick shout out to Bill. Bill is in the chat. Bill, cheers. He said it's never fixed, guys. Ask me how I know.
I mean, you guys won a playoff game last year. You gotta keep your head up. I mean, it's only been 4 weeks. You know what I mean? It could be worse. Ask Rick.
Yeah. Shut up. But,
I mean, me too. But yeah, dude.
Texans looking good right now.
Texans looking really, really solid. And the last thing I'll say for the chives on Steelers is Kenny Pickett is a bone bruise. It's not serious, and it's undetermined right now if he'll miss any time about it. But the Steelers avoid any kind of significant changes at quarterback. It appears, right?
Yeah.
So our next game, we had the Browns, who I believe are a really solid team, but they got absolutely just demolished by the Ravens. They lose by 25 points, but they don't have Deshaun Watson, and the Ravens have been struggling themselves. So it's kind of one of those games where I believe both teams. I believe like that exactly what I thought about both of these teams before and after this game. I'm not gonna read into what Deshaun Watson was team like. Yeah, take out a top. He might be having a top 5 type of QB year this year. So it looks like he's fully back. So it's just hard to judge. Like, the whole offense runs a certain style because of the kind of player Deshaun Watson is, right? Mm-hmm. The whole team's got to get massages before the game. There's a whole entire ceremony that they have to do. But anyway, the Ravens, though, man, we talked about it earlier. You got to beat the bad teams, and the Browns aren't a bad team. And their defense, I'm surprised, gave up 28 points. Their defense have been playing really good up to this point.
Yeah.
But if your offense can't get anything going, then the Ravens get more opportunities with the ball. Like, part of the reason their defense was doing so well was because the Browns were having success offensively. I'm just gonna, like I said, the Ravens were here, the Browns were here going into this game, going into next week. The Ravens are here and the Browns are here. I haven't changed anything really personally. I don't know if this game changed anything for you.
Yes, it did. And you said the Ravens are at the same spot and the Browns are at the same spot without Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson didn't play, but this defense still played. And yes, Myles Garrett, I think, was on crutches at the end of this game or at some point in this game. But the Browns defense, I don't think, had any major losses like the offense did with Deshaun Watson, right? we have to give credit to Lamar Jackson. 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Only completed 15 passes for 186 yards, but he scored 4 touchdowns, 4 total touchdowns. You said it. He's having a top 5 quarterback season. And I think with this game, the Ravens being 3-1, I think they're going to be AFC North division winners at the end of this. The Browns, or I'm sorry, not the Browns, the Bengals have had a rough start to the season, and I don't know if they can catch up to the Ravens at this point. But I love what Lamar Jackson's doing, rushing the ball, passing the ball. Mark Andrews getting it to his boy for 2 touchdowns and 80 yards. The Browns on the other side. Again, we talked about the defense, didn't really show up. But when you got a guy, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who completes, I think, 19 passes for 121 yards and has 3 interceptions, you're going to have a rough day, no matter what kind of defense you have. 3 interceptions in this game, and it's tough to judge a quarterback in his first start against a very good Ravens team. But the defense, again, was there. Didn't really have any major issues other than Myles Garrett possibly being out at some point. This Ravens team looks really good, and if Lamar Jackson can continue to do this on the ground and in the air, regardless of how many yards he has through the air, they're going to be really good, man. I think they're going to be a very, very complete team.
Yeah, no, I agree. But the Browns are only 1 game, behind the Ravens.
Absolutely. 2-2. You're right.
So I don't think it's like I'm worried about the Steelers getting left behind, but like the way I view it, I still have the Browns being the best team in this division right now. I think I had them at number 5 on my top 5 or number 4 last week because their defense has up to this game, man, they were giving up like 12 points a game or 11. I mean, they're just nasty. So I do think that complimentary stuff was missing, but our next game is going to be one that you don't want to talk about. Our next game is going to be one that I want to talk about, but we're both going to talk about it. The Broncos 31, Bears 28. This was the tale of, they say the tale of 2 halves. I'm going to say this was the tale of 3 quarters and 1 quarter. Mm-hmm. This was a tale of 2/3 of the game being won by the Bears. And it was kind of like 3/4 of the game. 3/4 of the game. Or 3/4. But that's the thing. It's like, how people say it's a tale of 2. It's a tale of 2 halves. Well, like, what would you say? It was a tale of 3/4.
It was a tale of 75% of the game.
Yeah, totally, just bad. But I mean, it's good and it's bad. It just you don't know what to think, right? Because it's like the Bears, though. Justin Fields, he's throwing the ball around. He had a 300-yard game. He threw for 3 or 4 touchdowns? 4 touchdowns?
4 passing touchdowns, 335 yards.
So, I mean, Justin Fields did his job. The Bears defense did it. And that's kind of my biggest concern is like you mentioned it. I got to talk about it too, because I'm with you on this. Mm-hmm. What does Eberflus do? Like this is kind of like when Nathaniel Hackett last year gave play calling duties to someone else. It's like, bro, what do you even do here? You know what I mean? Like it's like that coworker that you've never seen, and you're just like, dude, you work here? What do you do?
You showed up to the Christmas party. Is that all you do? You just show up to parties? Or?
Real quick, guys, when we were in the Navy together, I showed up to a military hospital Christmas party, and I won their grand prize, a giant raft. And everybody kept coming up to me like, what do you do? where do you go? And I'm like, I'm not even one of you guys.
That's the legend of Kyle. He just shows up and wins shit. Like,
it was hilarious. And then our friend Wen stole it. Anyway, nice. So this was, I'm just trying to put a light story in there because this is really sad for Rick, But I do think for the Broncos side of it, Russell Wilson is back. I don't know what we're waiting for to say he's back. Like, he's the number 9 fantasy quarterback in the league right now. He's got more touchdown passes than like Herbert, Mahomes, Hurts, all of those guys.
Yeah.
He's throwing 3 to 4 touchdown passes a week. Last year, he had like 3 touchdown passes at this point. So let's like take a step back though and be happy about this. Okay, Sean Payton said he was going to fix our offense. That was his promise, and he is doing that. We didn't expect our defense to implode. We don't have Justin Simmons in our front four, and we're really, really, really struggling like with personnel wise, and we're getting a lot of players back from injury. And now keep in mind, a 1-point loss to the Raiders, a 1-point loss to the Commanders when they were up 18. This could very, very easily be a 3-1 football team. The only big loss was against the Dolphins. And yes, I'm going to be that fan that says it's not over, because we have the Jets next week, and then they're 1 game out of 500, and then a big Thursday night football game against the Chiefs to get to 500. And then they're on a 3-game win streak, and the NFL is all of a sudden going to take Denver serious. So they got the win, and this win was so important for Denver. I mean, if they're 0-4 right now, it's it's a totally different situation. Right now, you got to spend the next second half of your schedule just getting back to 500. Very tough to do. You put yourself in a situation where if you're going to make the playoffs, you kind of have to win out. This is a 3-game hole for Denver, so they're still in a hole where they got to win next week, but they've got one. You know what I mean? They got one, and the next one's going to be winnable. So I don't know. I guess you can talk about the Bears for a little bit, about how you feel, about this game, post game being 0-4. I can't imagine.
Yeah, you can't imagine. So the Bears started off really well. This offense, not what I expected at all in this game, but I was very surprised, and I was happily surprised, right? They didn't score until the second quarter. They scored 21 in the second quarter. The defense held. The offensive line did their job, like really, really well. I was very surprised at what they were doing, how much protection they were giving Justin Fields, how much time they were giving Justin Fields, because I took a look at every one of his dropbacks. And I thought, probably as most Bears fans would think, and I think maybe a lot of NFL hardcore fans would think, a lot of these passes must have been in rollouts, must have been in play action. No, a majority of his completed passes were done in the pocket. They were done in the pocket, and that is a lot of credit to the offensive line. 21 points in the second quarter, 7 in the third. You think, as a Bears fan, okay, there's absolutely no way we can lose this lead. We have a 3-point lead with 20 seconds left in the third quarter. Defense shits the bed. Defense absolutely shits the bed. It is probably one of the worst displays of crunch time defense I've ever seen in my life. Nagy had better defenses. Nagy had better offenses. I don't know what Eberflus does around here, kind of like Kyle, kind of like what you said. What exactly do you do here? Eberflus is the head coach and now the defensive coordinator, and he couldn't coordinate a defense to save his fucking life, especially in the fourth quarter after this. Granted, one of these touchdowns was a fumble 6 on Justin Fields. We'll give the defense, I guess, credit for that one. But everything else, man, hold the fucking offense. Eberflus can't call a defense to save his life. Getsy, we talked about this on Big League Chicago. They scored 7 points in the entire second half after scoring 21 in the first. You got to put the pedal to the metal, man. You got to put your foot on the throat there and absolutely go for blood. Regardless of what team it is, regardless of what you're trying to do as an offensive coordinator or a team, you got to put your pedal to the metal and try to score more points. Be as aggressive as you are.
Yeah, you got to, and it's like, if you already said the Bears don't fire mid-season, you know what I mean? So you're kind of screwed when it comes to that. It's like, okay, so we just have to suffer for the rest of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you said it. I was going to say, and you said it, you're going to spend the entire second half of the first half of the season trying to get to 400, trying to get to 500. Like what kind of season is that?
This cat, dude, I've been telling you, like it wants to fuck the podcast up. It's like
If you guys are watching on the YouTube, by the way, subscribe to the YouTube. Kyle's just having the roughest time with this cat.
it just kicked over my energy drink, like onto the
Oh
carpet
God!
with
Oh
with
no!
liquid in it. Yeah, so that's what I'm dealing with over here. But yeah, dude, I really do believe though that the Bears can build off of this, and I know this is like not what any Bears fan wants to hear right now, but
Yeah.
the fact that Justin Fields had this game might have been some kind of confidence builder. You know what I mean? Like, what if this Bears team can kind of like Justin Fields now is like, all right, you know how we thought he was going to be the number one fantasy quarterback?
Yeah.
Well, like, what if he just had that kind of game where he's like, okay, I know for a fact that I can still do that. So if I can do that in the terrible defense and we're still in a 3-point game, like maybe I can kind of put this team on my back and be the Superman that Chicago needs. And it would be, that's what they thought they had in this quarterback is like the savior. You know what I mean? Like the guy that make the narrative change forever. And I do think Fields had the type of game where he's truly in bed at night before he goes to bed and he's like, I could do this. I can be that.
And I wish that were the case in a win. But reports were saying that he stayed in his full uniform for about 30 to 45 minutes after the game, just in the locker room, gazing at nothing.
Really?
And yes, you could tell that loss after that performance he gave was crushing. And I try not to be such a negative Nancy, but that may have been the game that absolutely kills Justin Fields as a quarterback, because 335 yards, first one as a quarterback over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and the coaching fucks you.
What does the coaching do?
The coaching fucks you, because this coaching is dog shit.
Yeah, dude. But I gotta say, if you don't want Justin Fields anymore, I will take him right now. And I'm not even kidding. Like, the fact that you guys are so mad that you're willing to I'm going to poke at your fan base a little bit. That you're willing to be like, talk about Caleb Williams. It's like,
yeah.
Do you not know what there's that J. Cole song called Love Yours? There's always going to be a whip that's better than yours. Always going to be a bitch that's better than yours. But you're not going to be happy till you love yours.
Yeah.
The Bears wanting to focus, dude, you have a franchise quarterback. I'm telling you, Justin Fields made those throws. Like, you can watch that film. I watched the game again last night, the whole entire football game. I fell asleep to it in like the third quarter. So all I did was get mad. I went to sleep angry.
And the thing is, yes, you're 100% correct. Like, we are looking at, we're over here clamoring for Caleb Williams. And it's nothing about Justin Fields. I want him to succeed. I just don't think it's going to happen with the Bears and with this coaching staff, because I think what the Bears ownership needs to do is strip the entire organization of this coaching staff, maybe even Ryan Poles.
But not Justin Fields.
But it's the thing is, like, I said this. The last good quarterback, the last top 5 offense we had was with Jay Cutler. What was the difference with Jay Cutler? We didn't develop him. He was already a veteran from the Broncos.
Mike Shanahan
developed him. Yeah, we did not develop Jay Cutler, and he came to the Bears in a trade, and he's been the best quarterback we've had in the last 2-3 decades.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
Mike Shanahan. Well, also Jay Cutler was drafted like first pick, 16th overall, I think.
And you guys had a great organization to develop that type of quarterback.
Yeah, I remember him coming out as a rookie, and then I remember in that second year, it was already expected that we were going to win football games. And I was a kid, you know, it was 2008, so I was like 12 or maybe even younger. 94, 6 plus 8 is 14.
Yep.
So I was 14, and I'm like watching this, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
I didn't really, looking back on it, I didn't really think that I had one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but I always believed that we were good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah.
So yeah, but Mike Shanahan, he developed him, and you're right, that is concerning that the Bears. But I just really do believe that Justin Fields in the right hands, the Potter
Yes.
will mold something amazing. Could you imagine if Kyle Shanahan had his hands on this guy, dude?
Dude, if Kyle Shanahan had him in San Francisco would be scoring 45 points every game.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's ridiculous what they'd be doing with him. And it's an organizational thing. That's all it is. So we're screwed one way or the other. We're really just looking at the fact that Carolina and the Bears are both the only winless teams, and right now we have the number 1 and the number 2 pick in the 2024 draft.
Which is pretty badass. And the reason they have the number 2 overall pick is because this team remains beaten.
Yep.
The Vikings, who have been kind of struggling this season, get a win over the Panthers. It's only by 8 points. The Panthers did pretty well with I've never seen that before. Do you see that thumbs up just come in the middle of our screen? We just had a bubble thumbs up come into the middle of the screen. Cool.
Like it.
So the Panthers, though, they remain a winless football team. They have a good coach, but look, I'm not a Bryce Young guy personally. If he proves me wrong like CJ Stroud, so be it. But the Panthers right now don't look good, and the Vikings don't either. I just don't really have much to say about this game. It was never a game that to me was going to change much, because even the Vikings getting a win, doesn't mean the Vikings are back on track by any means, right? I mean, what do you take from it?
This is a classic Kirk Cousins game. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The only difference is he's finally getting it to Justin Jefferson a lot more. We talked about Justin Jefferson, saying, hey, get me the fucking ball. I am a top 5 receiver in this league, and I get to say things like this because I am the top 5 receiver in the league. He had 2 touchdowns, 6 receptions, 85 yards. But again, classic Vikings game with Kirk Cousins, not even eclipsing 200 yards, and they come out with the win. Defense is still dog shit. Offense is going to produce points, but 1-3, they're nowhere near a wild card. They're nowhere near a division title. It's going to be a rough season for Vikings fans, but hey, I'm right here with you, Vikings fans. At least you guys got to win. As far as Bryce Young coming back into this game, 25 for 32, 204 yards. Really, again, very, very game from the Panthers. They got those 2 interceptions, which says something on the defense. But they lost, and that's really all I care about is how much more losing can they do. I hope it's an 0-16 season, so we know we have the number 1 pick in the draft coming up. I don't really have much to say about this game either, other than Justin Jefferson is going to be going to another team as soon as his rookie deal is up.
I'm just gonna pick this cat up and take it out because it's it's crazy. I don't know.
Kyle's gonna deal with that cat. But yeah, as far as the Vikings, if you're a Vikings fan, first of all, I'm sorry. But you came into this year with a lot of hope. The defense is even worse than last year, and this offense is not winning games like you guys were winning last year. A lot of one-score games that you won, especially when it came down to like the last couple minutes in the fourth quarter. But the Vikings are not going to be able to do this again this year. And we talked about it, I think, sometime in March, where I was like, you know what? The Vikings won a lot of games last year, but a lot of those were within 3 points or less than a score, right? They're not going to do it again this year, and their defense is just way worse, and that's exactly what's happening.
The last thing I'll say about the Panthers, though, is Bryce Young. Kind of hard to gauge his development in the sense that the pass protection was terrible. The game ended on a 4th and 18 sack. It was actually 4th and goal from the 18. Bryce Young got sacked. Why was it 4th and 18? Because 2 plays earlier, he got sacked again. It's been kind of nothing, like as far as protection. He was sacked the entire day until the last play of the game.
Yeah.
and they gave DJ Moore to Chicago,
Yep.
which is like, they just don't have those kind of playmakers on the outside. They don't have any receivers that are truly threats. I think they have DJ Chark.
And Adam Thielen is actually like 7 receptions for 76 yards. Like,
yeah, because he's
not
all they have. You know what I mean?
Not a bad veteran to have though on your squad. And I want to get to this comment real quick by Bill. Not trying to be that guy because we ain't any better, talking about the Giants.
Yeah.
But if the Bears have the number 1 pick, Caleb Williams plays another year in college. Oh, heart would be broken.
No, he would absolutely not. Yeah, I think I was surprised he chose to not join the league last year. So.
And it doesn't matter because the Bears are going to have the number 1 pick the following year too. So it doesn't matter.
I think the Bears will get enough wins to not have a top 7 pick. I really do.
I just hope the Panthers don't have enough wins to be outside the
7.
But yeah, let's move on.
And they're on the right path. 2 teams on the right path: the Bills and the Dolphins. The Dolphins coming off a 70-point game. People riding real high on those Dolphins. I said that I wanted to be careful with the Dolphins. I believe in the Dolphins big time, but they played the Patriots very close down to the end. Besides that, they haven't really played any tough teams, including my Broncos. And then they go into Buffalo, and they kind of get the taste of what Denver was feeling last week, the same flavor. So, what goes around comes around. But Buffalo right now is just playing very good football. I mean, Josh Allen running the ball, he looks faster to me. I watched a couple of his touchdown runs, and I thought, what is going on? Is the breakup, giving him some extra juice? I don't know. I like the Buffalo. They almost scored 50 points on a Vic Fangio defense. There's nothing more to say besides Buffalo's got to be the one team in the NFL right now that absolutely nobody wants to play, and that's why it sucks that the Giants are going to have to go into Buffalo next primetime game and play them, because that's just nobody wants to play them. You know what I mean? That's why I said Giants are staring at 1-5 in the face, and Bills are looking at beating almost everybody they play, it seems like.
Yeah. This was the one matchup for the Bills in the AFC East that I was actually worried about. And they were in Buffalo. They were in Miami, right? They were in Miami?
Yeah, no, they were in Buffalo.
Okay.
I'm writing it home team first.
Okay, so they were in Buffalo. This was the only team in that division outside of an Aaron Rodgers Jets that I was worried about for Buffalo. And look what they did. You said it. They almost scored 50 points on a team that scored 70 the game prior, whose defense is led by a defensive coordinator who is very fucking good at his job and has a very good defense there in Miami. Josh Allen threw for 4 touchdowns, rushed for 1, looked amazing. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. The pressure being off about a Super Bowl run and a Super Bowl MVP type of year and performance from Josh Allen, all of that being gone from the media has made this Bills team that team again. The window is not closed. The window is fucking open for a Super Bowl. For the Dolphins, Tua still had a really good game. 282 yards with 1 touchdown. Devin Achane, 2 touchdowns on 101 yards rushing. Still such a playmaker. And Tyreek Hill, still there, 3 receptions, 58 yards. Not much of a factor in this game, as well as Jalen Waddle. But this team's going to be fine. The Dolphins are going to be fine. They're still a top team, a top offensive team especially too. They just came up against a Bills team that is very, very good this year and is starting to prove a lot of haters wrong. So I think this said a lot about the Buffalo Bills and what they've been doing this year, and Josh Allen and how he hated that week 1 loss against the Jets.
Yeah.
But the Dolphins are still a good team, but the Bills, just a better team.
Yeah, and shout out to Buffalo. You can sometimes those kind of week 1, 3 interceptions, punt return, emotional loss without Aaron Rodgers into the game, right? That's just mind-blowing. Some of those are so defeating, and the fact that Buffalo was able to just turn the page and just, get back to business, it shows a lot of maturity. And I'm going to speak on one last thing about the Stefan Diggs drama because people were worried,
Yep.
what is their connection going to be like?
I was one
Stefan
of them.
Diggs, the corner that he was going up against, Kader Kou, he was a slot corner that was forced to play on the outside due to injury. He literally was tormented by Diggs. I mean, Diggs caught 6 of 7 targets for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. And
3.
Diggs also reminded everybody how good he is at running after catching the ball. I think his 55-yard touchdown was only it was a 14-yard pass, and he turned it into a 55-yard touchdown.
Wow.
So you do have Stefan Diggs reminding you that I'm the best receiver in the NFL currently, right now. I know people, it's always the next Jamar Chase and the gritty with Justin Jefferson, but we do have Stefan Diggs still in the house, and he's reminding everybody that there's absolutely no reason to not think that he's the greatest wide receiver in the NFL right now. Yeah. And he's crushing it. And if you had any concerns about that relationship, they're completely gone after this game.
And I was one of those guys preseason. I was one of those guys that was telling people not to draft Stefan Diggs onto your fantasy team in the first round because of that relationship he had. I was like, you know what? I don't know if it's going to be better. I would rather go Gabe Davis or try to get like a Jamar Chase, a Tyreek Hill. Stefan Diggs is proving me and a ton of other people wrong, and he did it with a 3-touchdown performance against the Miami Dolphins.
It was like people that didn't want to draft CMC because he gets injured a lot.
No, that's me too. Look at them. Yeah. Proving me all wrong.
Like, oh, sometimes you got to take a chance. Sometimes you got to risk it.
That's right. That's right.
I'll tell you, a team that risked it was a team that spent their 4th overall pick on a running back when they had a 1,000-yard rookie rusher, the Falcons.
Yeah.
Bringing in Bijan Robinson. This game happened in London. Disney made it a Toy Story bedroom game. It was really insane to look at and watch. I could watch an entire game like that. It just couldn't be a Broncos game, if that makes sense. But it was really cool. The Jaguars got the job done. They're really good in London. They play in London all the time. It's kind of like they're the home team over there. And the Falcons, I did expect them to play more competitively. Yeah. The fact that I think we talked about this one a little bit, but the fact that Kyle Pitts isn't more involved, 2 catches, it's like, how is he not having designed plays that are supposed to go to him? And then you could see the late touchdown grab by Drake London when he was out of bounds. You could just tell how frustrated he is because he's such a playmaker.
Yeah.
And he believes, look, in that crazy, who was it? Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson in that draft class. Yeah. Drake London thinks he's right there with those guys, and I believe he is. And it's just frustrating because you have so much talent, and they're not even really running the ball that great, and that's kind of all Arthur Smith does. And you're just kind of I believe in this Falcons team. I had this team. This was a team that I had that I thought would compete maybe even for a wild card spot. I did think Kyle Pitts gets going. Drake London's too good to not, help this team, but there's something missing here. And I think they maybe are a little too old school. Maybe they need to design some more, I don't know, just not everything a run and boring. Mm-hmm. Maybe try to have some splashes, put a little spice in there, I don't know. It's just, this kind of playing right now, and for the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, they get a win, but you're still waiting for that game for Trevor Lawrence to really unload and put up 40. But it's the NFL. It's hard to get a win. I'll say it every time, 23-7 is a win. But just, deep down, I'm still waiting to be like, the Jaguars are officially rolling. They win 23-7 after coming off of a loss to Houston. Houston, better than we thought, so yep. I'll let it slide. But next week, I'll be interested to see how both of these teams, move forward from here. Does Jacksonville keep trending right, and do the Falcons stay like this?
When your leading receiver for the Falcons is Jonnu Smith with 6 receptions and 95 yards, and not Drake London and not Kyle Pitts. Your play calling is off the fucking rails, dude. credit to Bijan Robinson for being the rookie and the running back that everyone in the NFL and in college said he was going to be, because he had over 100 yards again in rushing Sunday in London. But dude, Desmond Ridder, 2 interceptions, one going for a pick six. Yes, he had that touchdown to London, but similar to what we saw on Sunday Night Football with Waller, that can't be a garbage time situation where you're getting him touchdown. That's got to be second quarter, middle of the third quarter type of situations where you're getting him these passes to be touchdowns. The Falcons, in my opinion, started off really well. They're dead. I think they're dead until they get rid of Desmond Ridder, who is not good at quarterbacking at all. They're going to have a tough time. Bijan Robinson, great player. But you need a better quarterback. And for the Jaguars, completely agree with you. We need to see that Lawrence game where he has 350 yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns, and it's a complete team. It's a complete game, right? The defense showed up, had that pick six off of Desmond Ridder, so they definitely showed up and were able to prove that, hey, look, we're not a fluke from last year. We are going to play well, just as well as we did last year. This was kind of a tune-up game. They're 5-5 in London. They love London, dude. They live in London. If it wasn't Jacksonville, it would be the London Jaguars right now.
I kind of like the sound of that.
The London Jaguars.
That would be tough, though. Every away game would be 8 hours.
That would suck.
Yeah, and if you play in the West Coast, it's like a 16-hour flight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, the last thing I'll say about this is if the Falcons happen to, I don't know, be tanking right now, to me, could you imagine Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Caleb Williams? All of a sudden, it's like, what? But does it really matter? Because here's what I want to say. I understand that Riddler's not the guy. But remember last year, Marcus Mariota wasn't the guy. And how many guys we have to go through before you actually prove, like, 7 points, to me, I could understand, like, hey, I have Desmond Ridder. But as an offensive play caller, even with a terrible quarterback, you need to put up more than 16 points because I think you can control that much. Remember when Drew Brees retired and Sean Payton had to go with Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, and Eli Brooks or something, like, for Booker.
He's from Notre Dame,
and he still had that team playing week 18, week 17 for a ticket to go into the playoffs because he's Sean freaking Payton. That's what he's going to do. Like, I don't know how confident I feel. Like, imagine having this loaded roster with Caleb Williams, but Arthur Smith is kind of maybe more of the problem than we're acknowledging.
Yeah,
because of Ridder. Because it's easy to just point at Ridder and be like, yeah, he's just not good. But let's kind of, like, who's controlling him? You know what I mean? Because, it's 100%. Like a game of Madden. You can play a bad team and play really well if it's in the hands of someone that knows what they're doing. And Kyle Shanahan's a great example of this. Sam Darnold, doesn't matter. It's going to work out because it's Kyle Shanahan's offense.
Yep.
Yeah, they have a lot of talent, but so do the Falcons. The Falcons are loaded with talent. And to me, it's a little unacceptable that they only score 7 points. I don't care who's at quarterback.
Yep, 100%.
And our next game is probably one of the more dominating teams of the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers, scoring 35 points. The Cardinals come away with 16. And I got to say, Joshua Dobbs, I kind of like what I see from him. Like, it's not a game that you're going to be like, oh, the Cardinals went up, but he looks like okay, right? He looks all right out there. And the 49ers are, a tough task every single week. And the Cardinals they don't have the talent to play with the 49ers, not yet. But they didn't get absolutely embarrassed. I mean, the score looks a little closer than the game felt, if that makes sense. The 49ers were always in control of this ball game, and the Cardinals never really were in it. But I think the 49ers, we're going to say it every week, like, they're going to score this much points every week. And I'm tired of not just being like, Brock Purdy's better than we think every single week. I don't care if you want to say, it's CMC or it's Kyle Shanahan, if you are a quarterback in the National Football League and your team scores around 30 points per game,
Yep.
I'm like, what are we doing? Like Brock Purdy, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now, and I'm gonna shout it on the rooftops, and I'm not embarrassed to say it. Brock Purdy's the real deal, and so are the 49ers, and we knew that, right?
Yeah. 49ers are good. Brock Purdy had such a good game too, like you said. What do you have? 283 yards, a touchdown. He was 20 for 21, basically perfect in this game. He's good, man. He's good, and it's unfortunate that he didn't have more touchdown passes. But I guess Christian McCaffrey is such a ball hog. He wanted all four touchdowns. This 49ers team is going to the Super Bowl, dude. That's how good this team is.
Whoa! Super Bowl prediction. Super Bowl prediction.
Super Bowl prediction. 49ers, unless something ridiculous like last year happens again to this 49ers team, I can't see this team even losing a game in the regular season. It's got to be one of those shitty situations for the 49ers. Yes, they let up 16 points to this Cardinals team with Joshua Dobbs at quarterback and James Conner at running back. But James Conner is a good running back, and Joshua Dobbs, like you said, is surprising a lot of people. This 49ers team is just so dominant, man. Joshua Dobbs, though, 265 yards and 2 touchdowns, really good for him. They're gonna have his jersey at the fucking team store now for sure. But I can't say enough about this 49ers team, man. Like, they had a terrible NFC Championship game happen last year. They came into this year thinking we're bringing in Darnold to possibly start. What happens to Brock Purdy? Brock Purdy says, "Hey, I'm good to go." And this is the type of play that he's been doing. Yes, there's been times where he kind of looks like, all right, maybe his passes are a little rough. They're not necessarily in the numbers, this and that. Nitpicky shit. This is one of those games where he really balled out and said, hey, I'm the quarterback of the 49ers, and we're going to win some fucking games.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was another game going on at the same time that was, in my opinion, just as dominating. And that was the Cowboys game. This is our biggest blowout of the week. Did not see this coming. I did not see this coming. I look at the Patriots and I go, well, Bill Belichick, he's playing close games. Look at they played close with the Dolphins, and they absolutely got manhandled. But this, to me, this is the chance for us to talk about the Cowboys defense, because if we were to not have last week's little blimp in Arizona, this Cowboys team we would be talking about as one of the best in the NFL, period. The defense is scoring touchdowns. They continued. They strip sacked Mac Jones in the second quarter, and it got scooped up for a touchdown. They completely dominated the line of scrimmage and made New England one-dimensional. They were averaging 2.3 yards a carry, the Patriots. Mac Jones couldn't get anything going, and eventually it led to him being benched. And Bill Belichick clarified in the press conference, I have his exact words, but it was that he has no reason being out there. I didn't think there was any point in leaving him out there, so I took him out. The question is, how long will the leash be if the struggle continues? And I think Mac Jones is kind of earned himself a little bit of a leash, because last year it was all about not having a good offensive coordinator. Now they bring in Bill O'Brien, who is a veteran, accomplished. Bill O'Brien is a good offensive coordinator. This is not about the Patriots and their offense. It's not. This is about the Cowboys being the most dominant defense in the NFL. And Micah Parsons did leave, I remember, with an injury. And he went into the 10, and then he came back, I think, after halftime. So I don't know if Micah Parsons is going to be dealing with anything this week in practice, but the Cowboys absolutely look like they're better with Mike McCarthy calling the plays. And it turns out in Chargers land with Kellen Moore, we'll talk about that in a little bit, they're doing all right as well. So it just seems like maybe maybe Dak is having like himself a good little year. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's
Yeah.
not because Mike McCarthy in Green Bay would not really get credit because Aaron Rodgers is so good. They were just like, yeah, of course. But, it's kind of like what came first, Mike McCarthy being good at calling plays or Dak Prescott having a good year. Maybe they're both happening at the same time in perfect harmony. And maybe this is the Cowboys' year. Maybe it is.
Dude, the Cowboys, yes, we talked to, you mentioned the little fuck up they had against the Cardinals where they looked beatable, but they came into this game at home and were like, you know what? We're going to absolutely destroy this Patriots team. You had this as an upset. I had this as a Cowboys win. Obviously, Bill Belichick as the coach, you have to give him something, right? Like you said, you wanted an upset because you're like, Bill Belichick is the coach, man. He's going to study this Cowboys team, and he probably did. It's just the team he has is not good. Mac Jones is not good anymore. Third, fourth season, whatever it may be. Third season, I think. You led him to one wild card playoffs. We built an entire narrative around Mac Jones with that and went with that. And so far, he has shown absolutely nothing since then. Mac Jones is not the guy in New England. As much as we want to believe in Bill Belichick and Mac Jones, he's not the guy. 2 interceptions, I think, in this game. One of them led to a touchdown. Other thing, Ramondre Stevenson, when are you going to get him going? Through 4 weeks, he's had less than 200 yards rushing. He's had less than 100 yards receiving. When are you going to get Ramondre Stevenson going? Because
and this was the Ezekiel Elliott revenge
game. Yeah. But, like, what are you going to do? Even Ezekiel Elliott, only 16 yards rushing? Like, this guy isn't that far removed from being a pretty decent fucking running back.
Yeah.
I said it in our I believe it was our prediction episode for week 4. Bill Belichick may have really, really been a good coach because of Tom Brady. It's he's had some good seasons, but I just don't think he is the guy anymore to really develop another quarterback. I think he's way beyond that. I think he needs a veteran quarterback with the Patriots. I don't know. Maybe give him Justin Fields, see what he does with it, right? But as far as the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, great game by him. 28 of 34, 261 yards, a touchdown. Tony Pollard, Kevontae Turpin, Jake Ferguson, like all the offense, but especially the defense with 2 touchdowns on the game. Overall, dominating. Great win by the Cowboys. I think they're back. The Cowboys are back, and they're gonna be up there with the Eagles for NFC representatives. We will see.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Bill Belichick, he's a winner. So if he's got to bring in somebody to be a better coordinator or whatever, then that's what it is. But to me, it's just look at how one quarterback that you like, Daniel Jones, right? There was before Dabble, and I know today was really awful, but last year, it shows you like, look how much someone can progress under a good quarterback coach. And then Dabble is the reason Josh Allen became what he became. And that was under him. So it does matter, but it's kind of like, what's going to happen first? Is Bill Belichick going to decide that Mac Jones is too talented to throw away? Because look, Russell Wilson last year was putting 3 points up. So a player can completely change year to year in the right hands. And I just don't know, though, if Bill Belichick's going to, instead of do that, he's going to say, hey, maybe we can get a better quarterback in the draft. If he doesn't believe Mac Jones is, doing the little things right, I could see, instead of Bill Belichick getting more help, getting a different quarterback. I don't think that's super outside of the realm. Like, he did say he took him out because he just didn't want him to get hurt. To me, that even secures his job more. If I'm Mac Jones, that's a very comforting thing to hear. But if the games are going to continue to go like this, like, you're going to play defenses, maybe not as good as the Cowboys, but you're going to play other good defenses like the Eagles, and they were able to put up points. I think this might just be a bad day in the office, and the Cowboys are going to because they did play the Eagles, and they almost beat the Eagles by,
Hmm.
I think it was a 3-point loss, and then they almost beat the Patriots, and then they have the Cowboys. Like, this is a brutal schedule, and
Yeah.
I think maybe just playing tough team after tough team finally had its breaking point, and the Cowboys exploited them. But it's kind of, I think the Patriots can still put together a 7-win season. And that's kind of what's frustrating about it, is it's not a bad enough season to have a chance at a top quarterback. They just kind of remain in this Bill Belichick, too good for a 3-win season, but too bad to, make it a real playoff push. And the last thing I'll
Yeah.
say is this is kind of uncharted territory for Bill Belichick. The 35-point loss is the largest margin of his career. So things are looking pretty dark in Massachusetts right now.
And real quick, sorry, before we get to the next game, Mile High, we got him here. He's saying Bill should just call it a career. After that loss, I don't know, man. I don't
Can't
know
go
if he
out
should
like
call it
that,
a.
man.
I don't know if he should call it a career, but I don't know. And then Bill saying Dak with 261 yards equals dominating. You're damn right, Bill. You're damn right. With Daniel Jones as your quarterback, that should be dominating for you.
The thing is like Dak doesn't even need to dominate. He just needs to not throw 5 interceptions. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, this
Yes.
Cowboys team, Super Bowl 50, great defense, offense was awful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bad the
Yeah.
whole year, won the Super Bowl. This kind of Cowboys defense, I said it the other night. I said an elite defense can win you a Super Bowl, a great defense can't. This Cowboys defense looks elite, and Dak looks like he could. I could see the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl. I really could. I mean, I don't. It's not my first pick, but
Yeah.
it's not a surprising one at all. Our two next games is an AFC West matchup. We had a couple divisional games this week. We had the Bills and Dolphins and the 49ers and Cardinals. Here's another one. Chargers, Raiders, AFC West showdown. To me, the story was the quarterback that played for the Raiders. I watched this whole game pretty much.
Yeah.
I can't even remember his name. The
Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell, thank you. Aiden O'Connell, to me, looked like he belonged, and it looked like a great draft pick, and I would
Yeah.
feel really great about what I'm seeing out of Josh McDaniels. The Chargers, only getting a 7-point win, I think it says more about Aiden O'Connell, but the Chargers, they get the win, so now the Chargers moved to 2-2, and the Raiders go 1-3, tied with Denver on the very bottom.
Yep.
Yeah, this Chargers Raiders game didn't really mean too much to me personally, even though they're in my division. It's kind of like, yeah, they are who I thought they were. That's kind of how I feel. The only surprise, and that's why I mentioned it, was Aiden O'Connell looking like he could have a future in the NFL.
Yeah, and this was like you said, this definitely I think spoke to the Raiders. Cuz as much as I love Justin Herbert, he didn't put up one of those regular Justin Herbert lines where he's going 30 for 35 for 430 yards and 3 touchdowns or something like that. He had 167 yards, touchdown and an interception. Yes, he rushed for 2 touchdowns, and I'm sure fantasy owners love that. But this was not a very dominating game by the Chargers after coming into this week after a win against the Vikings, where they showed that they were the better team. But a division win nonetheless, and the Raiders with Aiden O'Connell, dare I say it, looked better than with Jimmy G. Dare I say it, looked
I don't
better than
know.
with Jimmy
Jimmy
G.
G was looking pretty good. He was
He
looking
was.
good. I got Devontae Adams, so I've been seeing.
Oh,
Oh,
I
you
see
got a
that
thumbs
again.
up. There
Yeah,
it
I
is.
see that again. I don't know, man. It's just the one game of the Raiders I did see. I think it was a Sunday night football or a Monday night football. I forget what it was. I think we were watching it. The offense looked so not like an offense in the NFL. That's what it looked like. It looked like something out of maybe, I don't know, little league football or some pee wee football. It just looked discombobulated. Jimmy G didn't know where to go with the ball. Aiden O'Connell, he might be the future of the Raiders.
Yeah, I totally agree. The turnovers are really what's hurting the Raiders. But you had a rookie starting the game, so
Mm-hmm.
those are going to happen. We saw that with Kenny Pickett, and we didn't lose our mind. Like, he's he's going to have to go out there and get exposed. But
Yeah.
the story also, so this doesn't get lost on anybody, is that this was a revenge game for Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack started with the
Yes.
Raiders. He had that trade to go to Chicago, and Chicago gave him to the Chargers. And at 32 years old, it was fair for us to wonder if Khalil Mack would ever rediscover what we saw from him when he had double-digit sacks in 2015 to 2018. And I think a lot of us kind of gave up on that dream. And Khalil Mack joined Hall of Famer Derek Thomas as the only player in NFL history with multiple games of 5+ sacks.
Wow.
And also Mack became only the 6th player since sacks were officially recorded in 1982. The 6th player since 1982 to finish a game with 6 sacks.
So dominating.
Guy had himself a game. I guess if he needed a little motivation, this was it. And I mean, that's got to be a big punch in the mouth to, the owner of the Raiders, Mark. Oh
my God, what is his name? I'm Mark.
Al.
No. Mark Davis.
No, Mark Davis. Yeah, terrible haircut.
Haircut, love it. He's a gangster.
Yeah. So, do you got anything else in this one?
Nope, all good.
All right, and then our stream last night, you guys saw it. Week 4 recap of Sunday Night Football, the Chiefs and the Jets. Mahomes, like you said it today during Monday Night Football, that they were kind of, I don't know if I would say Mahomes was outplayed by Zach Wilson, but it's fair to say. So I think for Zach Wilson, this is a promising game. This is kind of like the Commanders' loss, where it's like you lost. The only thing that kind of sucks for the Jets is that they're trying to win enough games to get Aaron Rodgers back in the playoffs. But if you're looking at the schedule, you knew that this was going to be an L, and the Jets actually made it a competitive game, and maybe Zach Wilson gets a little positive energy and vibes going towards next week, and maybe this is a building game. And for the Chiefs, I think you just got to go, hey, we played one of our worst games we'll play this year, and we got to win. We got out of there with a win. You know what I mean? Like, let's just be happy about this one. I expect Mahomes to have a monster bounce-back game next week, probably.
A lot of credit to Zach Wilson in this game. Stat-wise, he outplayed Mahomes. Let's just be clear. All right, he outplayed Mahomes stat-wise. But at the end of the game was one of the most important parts. He's there, one knee on the sideline. He has Lazard. He has a couple other players coming up to him, like trying to make him feel better. But he mouthed the words, "It's my fault, bro. It's my fault." That is a different Zach Wilson from last year when they asked him, is it your fault that, or do you take this loss upon yourself? And he quickly said no.
And then was benched.
This is a completely different Zach Wilson. He benefited from having Aaron Rodgers throughout the entire, or most of the offseason, I would say, after they signed him. He learned how to be a professional. He's taking this upon himself. He outplayed Mahomes stat-wise. Again, not career-wise, just stat-wise. This game, singular game. But he came out and he tried his hardest, man. You saw him falling down at one point and trying to throw the ball to get a completion. He is trying. The Jets fan base has to give him his props and credit for this game. I still don't think Zach Wilson is the answer in New York by any means, but you got to give him credit. As much as you crucify him, you got to give him credit for something like this. As far as the Chiefs, you said it. Worst game they've played, and they still came out with a win. Left scoreless in the entire second half until they had a field goal there in the fourth quarter, and that was the difference. The defense made up for it. We did have a call there, I think, when one of the defensive guys for the Jets was being held like bad, and they still got away with that. I think Mile High said the refs saved the Chiefs yesterday. A ridiculous call. Regardless, the Chiefs came away with a win. Mahomes didn't look his best. And all game, we were talking about Chiefs. Go back to your security blanket in Travis Kelce. Go back to your security blanket in Pacheco. They went back to Pacheco a lot, but I think the fact that they didn't go to Kelce that much this game really, really kind of screwed them as far as like a more dominating win, in quotes. You know what I mean? More than a 3-point win. But that's kind of what I think of this game. And Let me see. I want to get to this comment because Bill is asking us a question. Want your thoughts on this? Didn't Aaron seem to move around on the sidelines pretty well for a guy 3 weeks out of surgery?
I didn't.
I think he was in the box. I think he was in a suite, right?
He was in the suite because they said that he can't be on the field because if a player was go out of bounds, he wouldn't be able to get out of the way and protect himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, science is crazy, man. We saw Cam Akers come back from a torn Achilles in 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so he's gonna be doing everything on his end. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's a little further ahead, but I didn't get a good look at it, to be honest.
Yeah.
The last thing I did want to mention was the bright spot in this Chiefs game was Isaiah Pacheco.
Yes.
He definitely still looked like one of the better running backs in the NFL. The next gen stat of the game was that his 48-yard rushing touchdown had a 0.5 touchdown probability, and that's the most improbable touchdown of his entire career. He had 39 rush yards over expected. So Pacheco is still getting yards, defying, statistics as he does it. He's not supposed to be able to get all these yards that he's getting. The Chiefs did go up 17-0. So credit the Jets defense for stopping it. This became a ball game. We were talking about this being a disgusting blowout. The Jets fans were, looking like they were going to start getting ready to leave. And the Jets showed real fight. They showed real fight. The defense stood up. And then going to what you said about Zach Wilson saying it's my fault. I watched his press conference, and he spoke out about this, and he said, it's just my fault. Like, a play like that can't happen. He's taken full responsibility. He's like, my team puts me in a situation to win the game, and I let everybody down. And he's being really hard on himself. And I know that, he knows that his dad's watching in the box, and he wants to make him proud, and he wants to show everyone that he can be better. And I do think this is the kind of game that will ultimately help him moving forward. And with this win, Chiefs head coach Andy Reid becomes only the 5th NFL coach with 250 regular season wins. Congratulations to Andy Reid for not coaching like dog shit. And that is the last game of Week 4's
We technically still got to go over Sunday Night Football for the people who missed
Monday Night Football.
Or Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football. Well, let's roll right into it. Monday Night Football just happened. It was the Giants game. Sorry, Bill. I tried to move past this one. I didn't want to.
Sorry, Bill.
I didn't want to do it, but we're gonna do it because Rick said so.
Because I'm a sadist. I love seeing this shit. I loved seeing these Giants fans leave and look just sad as fuck, look defeated as I do with the Bears. I love seeing it. And if you know me, if you've listened to Big League Chicago, I hate New York. I hate it. I don't think I've said it on this podcast or this show before. And Bill,
this is a new Rick.
No hard feelings towards you, Bill, but I fucking hate New York and their fans. I love it. I love seeing you guys lose. And the Seahawks put on a hell of a fucking show, especially on the defense. 11 sacks, pick 6. They were making Daniel Jones look like a peewee quarterback out there against a bunch of grown-ups. That's what it looked like. Daniel Jones was manhandled. Daniel Jones was lost. Daniel Jones could barely get the ball across the line of scrimmage. He looked rough. Bill, let me know what you think in the comments, but he looked bad. And especially in that second half that I joined in, Kyle knows a little bit more about the first half. Geno Smith killed it. in the first half. The Seahawks, not too much going on in the second half offensively, but they got enough done. They got the field goal there at the end to really make this a game that was completely out of reach for the Giants, even though no point did it look like it was in reach. Seahawks dominated the Giants, and the Giants and Dabble look rough. They look rough because Dabble coached a game that looked like dog shit.
Absolutely. And the Seahawks, gotta give credit where it's due. Giants, though, they're just not the same team without Barkley. They really
Nope.
need Barkley. Like, he is the difference between a win and a loss. It's that
Yeah.
big of a deal. And
Yeah.
Bill's saying our entire O-line was injured by the second half. It was a disaster, and that O-line was terrible.
Yeah.
The Seahawks had a banged-up O-line, too. I think 3 of their offensive linemen were out of this game. One of them got hurt during the game. And that was kind of like the example is like, look, here's a team that is also got the injury bug on the O-line, but able to keep their team together and run the football even. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Against this Giants team. I just think it comes down to the Giants not having the kind of defensive front that Seattle's got. Thibodeau, he's the bright spot. I mean, he looks good. He had 2 sacks on the night. But it just seems like there's no juice on the D-line besides him. And, I mean, dude, the whole clips of Dabble looking at the pads and throwing it, and there was that pick 6 where Daniel Jones is coming out the field, and he looks him in the eye, and he's like, what? You know, and you can tell, like, this is not, like, all is well. Like, Daniel Jones, and there's going to be, I don't know. I'm really interested in the press conference. Actually, immediately following this, I'm going to watch that so that we can talk about that next time. But I'm just really interested on kind of where the Giants go from here. And you really got to watch those press conferences to get a feel for that. So I'll actually post it tonight after this.
Sounds good. And that was all of the games for week 4. Everyone who lost, I'm sorry. Everyone who won, good for you. Kyle, good for you. Fuck you. Let's move on to our next segment, and that is running back of the week. After so much shit the running backs have gotten in the offseason, you know, not getting paid, not getting drafted, not getting contract extensions that they want, we are going to we're going to give a spotlight here on the running backs. And what we're going to do is Kyle and I are going to choose one running back out of this previous week in the NFL that really wowed us. Kyle, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Right.
My running back of the week is none other than CMC.
Let's go.
And then you could go back. I just want to do that quick one. So CMC, if you watch the game, man, he had a couple plays that were just special. You know what I mean? Like, he had that quick pass. I think this was in the first quarter, and he ran like through like 4 different people and hurdled somebody to get in the end zone. I mean, CMC just looks like when he's healthy and he's playing, and he's been healthy now for a good little bit. I really think that CMC is kind of maybe the reason this 49ers team is what they are. And I'm not taking anything away from Brock Purdy or Kyle Shanahan. Ayuk is amazing. And of course you got Debo. But when you look at this team they acquired CMC last year, I think around week 6 from the Panthers. And ever since then, they have only lost, I believe, 1 football game.
Yeah.
CMC is, in my opinion, if you had to give MVP to a non-quarterback, he's in the conversation. He is absolutely, if you're talking just football player, he's probably like the best football player in the NFL. Like, he can do it all. He can be your receiver. He can get you the hard-fought yards. He's elusive. He's fast in open field. Like, he is just so special. And I think CMC, although we're doing this segment because running backs aren't being paid, he's one of the few that is being paid, and it makes sense why.
Yep. And Bill's saying CMC is obvious. He's an effing machine. Pair him with Kittle and Samuel. Damn. And then Mile High is saying, can Eli Manning, referring to the Monday night game, can Eli Manning come out of retirement for 1 more year already?
That would be awesome. I would be so psyched.
I know, right? Great pick, Kyle, for running back of the week, CMC. My running back of the week award goes to David Montgomery, former Bear, current Lion after what he did to the Packers on Thursday Night Football. 32 carries, 121 yards, 3 touchdowns, had a couple receptions on the night as well. I've known how good David Montgomery is, but holy shit, what a game he had against the Packers. And part of me still, sees him as a Bear at heart. That's who drafted him. That's where he got a lot of his success in. And him doing what he did against the Packers makes me smile quite a bit. So that's my running back of the week is David Montgomery. Obviously, the Bears didn't want to pay him. We have Rashawn Johnson. We have Khalil Herbert. But he is definitely a guy who has earned his paycheck with the Lions. And on a gritty team and doing gritty things, scoring 3 touchdowns in a game. Exactly.
And
Bill's saying Montgomery is an excellent choice. What's up, Kyle?
I was just gonna say I didn't read CMC stat line. He had 20 rushing attempts for 106 yards, 3 touchdowns, and averaged 5.3 yards a carry. In receiving, he had 7 catches for almost 100 yards, 71 yards, 29 yards away from 100 yards receiving, and 1 touchdown. 4 total touchdowns on the day.
Savage.
This guy scored 28 points, dude.
Savage. All right, well, those are our running backs of the week. Let's go into our next segment.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
Top five. This is where Kyle and I give our top 5 teams in the NFL right now after week 4. Kyle, are you ready to give everybody your top 5?
Absolutely ready.
All right. So I think I started it last week. So who is your number 5 team in your top 5?
My number 5 team is the Dallas Cowboys.
Woo!
The Dallas Cowboys, they had a blimp, right? They had a bad game, but to me, they look like they're back. They're still the Cowboys, and they're a team that you just never trust fully, and that's why they land at number 5. But we'll see where they end up in the next couple of weeks. If they do in fact have the most elite defense in the NFL, they're going to climb the board. Just coming off that Arizona loss, it's like I didn't forget about that. So number 5.
All right, my number 5 team is making its first appearance in my top 5, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. After beating the Cleveland Browns defense 28-3, Lamar Jackson having a 2-touchdown rushing and passing game, this Ravens team looks like it's ready to win the AFC North, and that's why I have them at my number 5. Kyle hates it. I
can't believe you're falling for it.
No, I don't want to hear it. Let's move on to number 4. My number 4 pick, they're dropping down a bit, I think. Yep, from my last week, are the Chiefs. The Chiefs at number 4. Again, we talked about it. They had their worst game of the season so far, and they still came away with a win. They definitely dropped 1 spot in my top 5. But they're still in the top 5 because of Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and Isaiah Pacheco is starting to show that he is a top running back in the league. Kyle, who do you have at number 4?
I got Philly at number 4.
Woo.
I got Philly at number 4 right now. Oh, no, I got that swapped.
Oh.
So I have Cleveland at number 4.
What?
Cleveland is my number 4 team in the NFL because they've dominated everyone they've played with Deshaun Watson. I mean, they went with Dorian Thompson at quarterback. You're going to judge a team that went with Dorian Thompson. He made his first career start. He's never played quarterback in the NFL until Sunday. You got a team that's the number 1 defense going into the game in the NFL. The number 1. This is not rough. What are you not hearing? The number 1 defense in points per game.
That just got beat by the Ravens.
Because they had Dorian Thompson having his first start. So the Ravens had ample opportunities to score, and they still only got 28 points. Like, yes, this Browns team to me is going to be better with Deshaun Watson on the field. And wait a minute, I think we might have Ravens Browns next week.
Oh, Ravens Brown was this week.
Or shit, you're right. I can't wait though. I can't wait until a healthy Deshaun Watson gets to play, because this team, dude, it's Dorian Thompson. Like, they shouldn't move at all because they were a top 5 team last week. Now they went with Dorian Thompson and got beat. I still think this Cleveland team is better than people know. And next week they're going to be on a bye week, so we won't have a chance to see anything, unfortunately.
All right. Number 3. Who you got at number 3?
Number 3 is Philly. No,
Okay.
I have the Eagles at number 3. I still think the Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFL. Don't think anything about that Commanders game. That, to me, I love that. They were able to win a game like that. So I think A.J. Brown was kind of going off there in that game. Philly never really got down to the goal line to do tush push. I know Rick would love to push his tush.
I love it.
So
I fucking love it.
Philly doesn't move anywhere. They'll probably be 1 through 3 all season. I don't know if I'll even see them drop.
Yep, my number 3 is also the Eagles. Like you said, man, that Washington Commanders game looked rough at the first half, but they were able to come back because the Eagles said, "Oh wait, we went to the Super Bowl last year. What's going on? Let's get some of that energy into this game." And that's exactly what happened. They came back, tied the game up, and then were able to win in overtime. So Eagles are my number 3 team on my top 5, and I think they went up two places from last week. My number 2 team is a team that just beat your number 1 team from last week. That is the Bills. The Bills coming off a good win against the Dolphins. The Dolphins scored 70 points last week. Bills said, not so fast. You're actually facing a tough fucking defense in the Bills defense. And also, we got Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs on the offense. What are you going to do? Nothing. They were only able to score 20 points while the Bills scored 48. Bills are my number 2 team.
Yeah, I got the Bills at number 2 as well.
Nice.
Buffalo, I had Buffalo at number 2 last week and Miami at number 1, and I believe that was the proper order. But after that last game, it's gotta switch. Miami actually falls out of my top 5 for now, just because I feel like they're overinflated going into this game a little bit.
Yep.
But I was willing to bet on, maybe they are the real deal. But just for now, at this particular point in the season,
At this particular point in time,
I don't give a damn what you think.
I love
Buffalo's got to be number 2, and number 1. Let's say at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. 49ers.
49ers are number 1 after just the ass whooping they put on the Cardinals, after what Brock Purdy did, after what CMC did, after what the defense was able to do. It's a clear-cut number 1 team right now, and they're in the NFC, so that's awesome to see.
Yeah. I'm excited to see the 49ers and this Brock Purdy thing. I'm excited to see how far it can go, because we know Kyle Shanahan will make it to the NFC Championship game, but there is that hurdle that they haven't been able to get over, and I'm interested to see how good can the 49ers, like a team as good as them, how do they improve week to week? And I'm excited to see what they become, right?
100%.
100%. But yeah, that's our top 5. So we agree on 1, 2, and 3. You got the Ravens, where I got where do you got the Ravens at number 5?
I had the Ravens number 5.
So you got the Ravens.
Browns at 4. Fuck you. Fuck you, dude. That pick is dog shit.
Great.
All right, that was our top 5.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on our week 4 recap. We're just under 2 hours, which I think is good for us because it's getting pretty late for us on the Central Time and even West Coast time. It's almost 11 p.m. here. Kyle, you want to hit us with the chives? The chives?
Yeah, so we just did our top 5, and my chives today are going to be, there's a lot of opportunity next week for some serious movement in this top 5.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to happen on Sunday night when the San Francisco 49ers take on the Dallas Cowboys. And that is an NFC championship, a divisional, NFC divisional game rematch.
Yep.
But that's kind of the sneak peek at where the divisional round looks like it's going to be at right now this year. And then excited to see the Jaguars taking on the the Jaguars are taking on another top team, the Bills.
Okay.
So the Jags will have an opportunity to maybe move around 5. We'll see. But 2 really amazing football games, Buffalo, Jacksonville, and San Francisco, Dallas, Sunday Night Football next week. And we can't wait to experience it together.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for everyone who was in the comments today. Bill, Mile High, thank you guys for chatting with us and, sticking by this 2-hour episode. This was our NFL Week 4 recap. We brought you guys a new segment, Running Back of the Week, and continued one of our OG segments in Top 5. Go follow us at Star 6 Media on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Facebook, and at _Star 6 Media on Twitter or X, whatever the fuck you call it. You can follow me on Twitter or X at @AndNowRick. You could see my screen name up at the top of your screen. And if not, if you're listening on Spotify or something, just, unlock your phone and see the video version. Kyle, where can they see you on X or Twitter or the tweeters?
You can follow me at FTBL ONLY PODCST Football Only Podcast.
Make sure to add the beat drops in there too. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you got to do it.
Football Only.
Kyle, always a pleasure. It's great when we get to live stream a game and then talk more football. I fucking love it. Stay tuned for Wednesday's episode where we go over our predictions, and then Thursday where we get to stream another terrible Thursday night football game between the Bears and the Commanders. I think the Commanders are going to win it, but we'll see. We'll
I'm
just
excited,
wait for
man.
Wednesday.
I'm a football junkie because I'm excited for this game. The Commanders defense and Justin Fields building off next week. This is going to be a good game. I'm excited.
Kyle seems to be the only one of the two that seems to be excited. All right, thank you everybody for tuning in. Kyle, I will see you next time, brother.
All right, dude. See ya.
See ya.